Hey, hello, and welcome to the Event Marketers Toolbox. This is Chris Dunn. I'm with Blue Hive Exhibits, and I want to give a shout out to my buddy Jakob Eliason, who is joining in from Pickleball Pop-Ups. We're both on site at different events, or we're not in our normal spots. So I'm down in Dallas. I'm doing a trade show. We just actually show started today. It's called Aesthetic Next. I'm out in the lobby of the Hotel Anatone. Or Anatoly. Jakob, where are you at, man? Like, cool birds.
I'm in Destin, Florida, and yeah, to be clear, this is not my normal Zoom background here. This is the default beach decor in the condo here in Florida that we're in, and so I got the whole family. They're down at the beach for a little while, giving me a few hours to come on here.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Before we kind of dive into to kind of the main talking points, I'm super excited about this. Pickleball is if you're living under a rock, you may not know this is like the fastest growing sport in I don't know about the world, but certainly in North America. I did a little deep dive today to brush up on some of the talking points and the growth of this, I don't know, movement, let's call it. It's a combination of sport and wellness and fun. Is pretty amazing. The millions and millions of people, getting involved. Tons of money being invested, opening new pickleball locations and companies, coming out with pickleball rackets and shoes and all of the stuff that goes with it. There's obviously a lot of connected pieces, but what we're going to do today is really kind of talk about how does this relate to events. So, Jake, tell us a little bit about kind of how you got your start. Like, where did you come from? What were you doing prior to this? And then how has your company evolved?
Yeah, no, first, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to have this conversation. And as I'll share a little bit about our story later, it's just been a whirlwind and pickleball's growing so crazy. And so I'm the co-founder of Pickleball Pop-Ups. I founded it alongside a great friend of mine and now business partner. His name's Adam Clay. And we started the original company 2 years ago, and I'm wearing a Pickleball 901 shirt. 901 is the Memphis area code, which is where I am based. And that's where I live every single day. But we're down here in Destin for a week. But we started Pickleball 901 early 2023, original intention of building a pickleball facility. That concept through just some interesting marketing strategy turned into its own company that's Pickleball Pop-Ups today. Now we have an indoor facility in Memphis. The original plan happened, and we also run Pickleball Pop-Ups, which is our pickleball as a service, if you will. And so before that
PBAAS,
PAAS, right? Like we joke. My business partner Adam, his career has been in software sales before we did this, and so he was in SaaS and he was selling SaaS products, and then he went from SaaS to PaaS. And it's just a fun. We're the only pickleball as a service company, and so that was a good positioning angle for us. Before that, I was working alongside another good friend out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and we were running a digital marketing agency together. And that was my first foray into business ownership and entrepreneurship. And but what it did is taught me so much about marketing. We did a ton of virtual events, webinars, podcasts like this for our clients, and I saw the impact of them. And so when we founded Pickleball 901, it was going to be 18 months before we got a facility open because of all the different things that you've got to go through. And any type of construction project was going to take a while. And so everyone was looking at me, the marketing guy. What do we do? For 18 months, we've already launched this company. Now what? And immediately some type of event came to mind. Right. And so what we did is over the next year, we did 6 or 7 pickleball pop-up parties around Memphis. It was actually all in one summer. It seems like it took a long time, but it was like 6 weeks back to back to back. We did 6 places around Memphis. We focused on breweries and like bars and iconic places with bars around it as our target, because we wanted to make sure that we were doing these in places that people were already going to be going regardless. And it would be easy to ask people to come for this too. And so after 6 of our pickleball parties where we brought courts out, and it was real pickleball courts out in these parking lots, and people were playing all day, hundreds of people showed up. We we had a really smart person that I'll forever be thankful for. His name's Doug. He asked us if we had considered like that type of business as opposed to the indoor facility business. And we ran a financial model, and basically just realized that like, the market was there. Nobody was doing it. We knew that the events market was booming back again because of post-COVID. And so we just saw an opportunity to kind of build an events company, we thought. And that's what we did. So for the next 18 months, while we were waiting on everything to happen with the facility and like working through all the red tape, we launched pickleballpopups.com, and we took a bet that that's what people were calling it. We were like, if somebody sees a pickleball court where it's not supposed to be, they're going to call it a pickleball pop-up, right? That's the only pop-up pickleball, something like that. And so we paid for like a premium level domain, and I don't exactly remember how much it was, but we just took the bet. We built a website around that keyword, and a few others similar to it. And within a few weeks, we were getting Google leads. And that has just turned into a snowball, because people will see a pickleball court where it's not supposed to. They'll go to the internet, they'll search for pickleball pop-up back court, pickleball pop-up court rental or something, and they'll find our company. And so that just kind of launched us into the conference and events and trade show and corporate world. And then again, we recognized that was a lane that had tons of opportunity and tons of different applications, which we'll discuss on this, I'm sure. And so that's been our focus. You know, we stay out of backyards. We try not to do, weddings and bar mitzvahs and graduation parties. Like, that's not really our scene. Like, we want to be at large scale events where there's already a great crowd, where pickleball can be complementary to that and be extremely valuable as an addition, and not centered or, around the whole thing pickleball. And so, and that's what we do. And that's kind of my journey, was going from, marketing in college to no marketing job because I couldn't find one. I didn't want to be doing, social media, even though I was a millennial coming out of college. And then finally getting a break by, it's like, screw it. I'll jump in and we'll start building our own marketing company if nobody else will hire me. I mean, that's kind of the thought process, right?
There you go.
And
entrepreneur to the core.
And then learned a whole lot, just helping so many different people and businesses with their marketing, or trying to, winning, failing, doing all the above, set me up, I believe, it was just like, we're going to do events. And then that just kind of, kept going from there. And so, yeah, that's my background in 6 minutes.
It's a good story, man. It's a good story. We'll absolutely come back to that. So before we get going, just a reminder, this is a live show. I see Paul Robinson checking in. Paul, unfortunately, Jacob is not a Florida resident. He's just there on vacation. So you guys are going to have to hook up in Memphis, Tennessee, I guess. But drop your questions in. I'm sure lots of folks are wondering like how this could work for their events. So we'll do our best. As you can see, I don't have a co-host riding shotgun today. So it's just me and Jacob. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show here, two quick things. We are, as we say, we're building a community of event professionals here. Folks coming in from kind of all different angles and different realms within this kind of overarching event space. But we're all about kind of just sharing content and sharing ideas and thoughts. And do us a favor, like if you like kind of the conversation. We are, I think, episode 36, I believe. So we've been doing this for a while. We're putting out great content. We're having amazing conversations. Spread the word. Get the word out to your friends and co-workers and so forth. Check us out not only here live and on YouTube, but also on your favorite podcast platform. Second thing is that we are sponsored by not only my company, Blue Hive Exhibits, but also by Fist Bump. So just a little bit on each company. Blue Hive Exhibits, we're about 20 years old. East Coast, West Coast locations, full production. We design, we build, we do all the things, almost all in-house, so that we can control those pieces. And we feel like size-wise, we're a little over 100 people. So we're bigger with more resources than a boutique, and we're not really the big guys who make you feel like you're just a number, right? We're in that right size space to help a lot of different companies succeed in trade shows and events. On the Fist Bump side, Fist Bump is an agency that we've been working with for a few years, and they really helped us get this podcast off the ground. So not only were they kind of coaching us with regards to marketing and social selling and so forth, but they brought this idea of doing a podcast, trying to step into that role as thought leaders and creating content in this format. And they've been awesome to work with. They do all the heavy lifting, and I just kind of show up regardless of where I am, sitting in a hotel lobby or whatnot, or maybe in my vacation spot. And they do all the heavy lifting and put this together for us. So thanks to the Fist Bump team. Cheers to you guys. And we're going to circle back and ask Jakob a bunch of questions. And like I said, we are a live show, so please drop your comments and so forth in, and we'll try to get to them. All right, Jakob, you gave us a great background. We understand where you came from. You've got kind of marketing chops to start with, so you saw the opportunity. Talk to us a little bit about pickleball as an experiential marketing tool, right? Because it's not on the surface, pickleball court surface, which is gritty, but not on the surface. You don't make that connection real easy, right? So how did you, obviously you kind of gave us a little background, but tell us a little bit more kind of in depth on the pickleball as an experiential marketing tool, as an event professional. How do we potentially think about utilizing a service or a company like yours?
It's a great question. I think to answer that question the best, first, I kind of need to explain pickleball a little bit, because I'm sure there's people listening that have heard about it but don't understand. But pickleball is a cross between ping pong, tennis, and let's call it badminton, right? So it's like a miniature tennis court, but you're hitting a hard ball back and forth like ping pong. But the court is like a badminton court. If you ever played badminton and you look at a pickleball court, you're going to realize that's like the same thing. And there's many rules that are adopted from badminton as well. And so when you think about that, the court itself is only 20 feet wide by 44 feet long. And so naturally you have space efficiency. And so you can get a lot of these, you can get 4 pickleball courts on a tennis court, right? And so you think about, tennis courts are empty. You've probably all seen some empty tennis courts in the last 4 or 5 months. I know I have everywhere. And so you can replace those. You can put 4 on there. And now you can have 16, 25, 35 people out there where you normally had 4 to 6. And so it's more of a compact sport. But on top of that, it's accessible. And I mean that even badminton is not the super accessible sport, and ping pong can be challenging, and tennis can definitely be challenging. But pickleball is wildly accessible to all ages, all skill levels, everything. And so we see that happening at our events. Is we see a millennial or a Gen Z playing with boomer executive, Gen X executive, one's in a suit, one's in jeans, right? They're out there playing on the court together. We see that happen all the time. Skill levels do not matter. You're not doing overhand serves like in tennis. You're doing an underhand. It's an underhand serve with a giant yellow wiffle ball and a also giant paddle. I wish I had one sitting here beside me to show. But it is a very lightweight and easy game to play. There's actually a specific spot on the court called the non-volley zone, and you cannot get any closer to the net when the ball's in the air than that line, and it's like 7 feet off the net. So the game and the rules itself eliminate a lot of the hyper competitive stuff. You can't have 6'3" guys like me out there just slamming it on, ladies that showed up to play in their heels, right? The game just doesn't favor that. It favors like a neutrality. And accessibility, which is hugely important when you think about trade shows and events, because you've got a gigantic, diverse crowd that's already in the building. And so you need to be able to design your activations and how you're engaging to fit that and to be accessible to as many people as possible, because the lower the barrier of entry, the more people that you're going to be able to engage. And so the fact that it's accessible is huge. The fact that it's space efficiency, even to shrinking it down smaller than you need to, then a normal size court is something that we can accommodate. It doesn't have to be 20 by 44 or 30 by 60. I think we're taking a 20 by 10 model to New York City in a few weeks for an event for somebody. And so we can really we can work with the space. But on top of those two things, especially for an event like a conference or a corporate event or a trade show, it's naturally social. It has the fabric of the game is social. It's played in doubles, and you're on a small court. and you're hitting the ball back and forth. You have to communicate. Like either I got it or that's yours. Like at minimum, you've got to talk. There's serving, there's scoring, right? Like and it's fun, right? You hit a good shot and you're going to smile. Your teammate's going to high five you, even if you've never met them. And so the fact that it's so welcoming and so inclusive to everybody that's already at these events and all skill levels, all ages, all languages. Like I can teach pickleball in 7 minutes to somebody who speaks German, and I've never spoken German in my life because it's just so easy to get the hang of so quickly. And if you go one step even more simple and say, okay, the points don't matter and the scoring doesn't matter, then it becomes even more accessible, right? Because then you're just hitting the ball around for fun in the middle of the conference, right? And you've never done that before. And so, so those three things are the three components that make it really hit at events. But then the fourth one is just kind of a plus in this scenario, and it's brandable, right? Like it's an interaction that can have logos on it, and we can put logos down on the court. We can put them on the barriers that go around the court. All the paddles that are used can have logos on them, or that can be branded. And even we just actually launched these giant 20-foot by 8-foot, trade show booth style backstops that are now fully branded. So you kind of have this enclosed brandable experience that we can do with pickleball. And that's just the plus on top of everything, because now sponsors can be involved, and that can be part of larger packages, which is a win-win-win for everybody, right? Because our goal at a lot of these is to keep pickleball free. We want to make sure that you're not having to pay to come up and play at any activation we do, because again, lower barrier of entry, more engaged people, they stick around for a while. So those are kind of the four things that I would say, like that's how it's the recipe. It's accessible to everybody. It's naturally social. You can shrink it down size efficiency if you need to. It doesn't have to be huge. And you can brand the hell out of it.
No, that's awesome. So, before we started the broadcast, you and I were kind of chopping it up a little bit, and I was saying, so I got 25 years or so on you, roughly speaking, right? 58, been in trade shows for 30 years or so. The folks who were building shows and events back when I was young, did it in a very different way. And now millennials and even Gen Z folks, and certainly younger, not necessarily boomers, but Gen X folks, they're the ones driving the boat, right? And they want something different than what people wanted in the past out of their events. They want engagement. They want, it's more fun, I think, than it used to be, right? People are not satisfied with just, going to a boring event and being like, oh, this is ho-hum. Like, if I'm going to go and commit my time, I want it to be engaging and fun, and I want to learn something. I want to meet people, right? So there's certainly several folks, or several different types of folks who are looking for different things, but really kind of you guys are answering the bell for exactly what folks are looking for in the market. And I'm sure that's the growth of pickleball, is fueled on this type of thing. Although I learned about it because older people were getting involved. And I understand that the average age of participation in traditional pickleball is coming down, but just thoughts around kind of this, I guess, the perfect storm of things coming together for your business model and for pickleball showing up at events. Thoughts on kind of, who you're working with and what they're looking for, and why that works so well together.
It's definitely something different. So there's a few different reasons that we get brought in. It's something different, something more engaging. There's a lot of conferences that are doing wellness areas, right, in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes, like we did Bitcoin 2025, and they had this wellness area. So they had, some cornhole, which is, you've probably seen at trade shows before. They had a basketball hoop set up. It wasn't, there's people playing, but it was kind of odd just sitting there. And then you had a pickleball course. So they kind of had this big thing. We work with the American Society of Liver Diseases, and they kind of do something similar. So we get brought in to be part of their wellness activation area that's just there the whole time. And so the wellness part of it plays a pretty critical role, but so does the fun and engagement and something new and spectacle part of it as well. And what's interesting to me is, hearing and learning from event professionals like yourself about how millennials and Gen Z are starting to drive the boat. That's what we're seeing in pickleball too. That average age that you mentioned, during COVID, when this blasted off, it was in the villages in Naples, Florida, right? It was in retirement communities. But now that under 35, they're driving the boat. Like that's the future. That's how we know pickleball is not a fad, is because it's exploding there, right? Which is stuff that like racquetball never did. And so never to this extent, right? And so you're starting to see collegiate divisions being funded by huge donors. You're starting to see high school pickleball and even junior level pickleball, similar to the tennis path, start to pop up. And so that's how we know that pickleball is not a fad, which is a question that we get all the time, which is neither here nor there. There's 13,000 trade shows. If all of them just do it once, then I think everybody's happy. And so
you'd be busy.
Yeah, I'd be busy, right? And so we don't necessarily care that much about that, but we do see the same thing, that under 35, the millennial Gen Z, they're starting to drive the pickleball boat further. And that's, I think you're going to start to see, including with us on some other fronts, people are getting out ahead of that and designing the future of their pickleball experiences and facilities towards, that the next 15 to 20 years, instead of building country club models that the original pickleball crowd likes, but the younger pickleball crowd doesn't necessarily like that.
Gotcha. Hey, let's talk before, and I definitely want to kind of camp on that corporate wellness and public health and so forth in a second. But before we do that, tell us a little bit, or share a little bit with our folks here. When you roll in and create this activation, what's kind of the norm? In other words, are you bringing like a playable surface that you're putting down? Are you're bringing the nets and the paddles, and you're bringing everything that people need, obviously. But I'm mostly thinking about, okay, what's that floor look like? Are we just putting tape on concrete like in a traditional trade show hall and carving out the space? Do you typically do a couple that are side by side, or what? Kind of paint a picture, if you would, of the physical aspects of it, and then maybe some of the best use cases and stuff that you've seen that really kind of created a cool, engaging time.
Yeah. So to answer the first question, yes, totally A to Z. Everything from getting it shipped in, handling logistics, and getting it back out of there without anybody from the event having to deal with it is our goal. Very easy, very seamless, very turnkey. But to answer the second question, we have a few different types of court surfaces. And yes, we are bringing in a court surface. We have done tape down lines on convention halls in the past, and it can work. But there's two challenges. One is that floor is typically pretty slippery. And so when you got dress shoes and stuff like we were discussing before, the attire, we want it to be accessible there too. And so I don't want you to think you're going to come out there and tear your ACL by watching people sliding around, right? I would rather see how easy and fun it is. And so we have two different types of court surfaces, and it's really based on the goal of the event. One of them is kind of like a sport court, like a click together tile court that is painted like pickleball. And so that's the one that really we can shrink down. We can go on top of ballroom carpet where otherwise with like a mat type court or like you have to build a decking and all this stuff, but we can get on top of ballroom carpet. With this surface, we can do different colors and stuff easier. And also it's easier to move around, right? Like it's easier to move around. It's easier to install. It's easier for us to scale it with teams. So it kind of checks a lot of boxes for us. And so that's one surface. And then we have another surface that is called Pickle Roll, and we partner with Pickle Roll, and that is like a premier tournament quality surface. And so basically what you're getting is, if you've ever been on a tennis court or a pickleball court and you feel the gritty texture and it's like you're really going to play tennis, we have that type of flooring too, when it's necessary, right? And so there's certain situations like the American Association of Physiatry. We worked on that event, and the first time we used the sport court, we realized, wow, there is so many really good pickleball players at this event. And if you bring us back, let's do this other court because this crowd is really going to want it. They did a big tournament. It was like one of the only tournaments that we've done that was just an absolute banger. We've done 2 or 3 that have gone really well. But tournaments can kind of be hit or miss in the trade show world because there's all this other programming behind it.
Right.
Those are the 2 different types of court surfaces. This other one is way more delicate, way longer to install, more expensive for us to get around and handle. But for the right event, it makes sense. And so we start with the goal of the event and the activation itself, and then we work back towards what makes the most sense. And a few times it's landed on taping down lines, but we, again, like people sign waivers before they play and stuff, but like that, I have to like leave the room sometimes when they're sliding around, and I don't like that. So we try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, no, very cool. So, as I'm wrapping my head around it, and again, I'm here at a trade show, not in the hall itself, but picturing, you got your exhibits, and then there's kind of the common space, right? And events are evolving, right? They're kind of carving out space for networking and other types of things. So when you're at a trade show, are you typically being hired by the event group itself that's throwing the event, or potentially by an exhibitor who maybe buys a 40 by 40 space and puts a 20 by 20 booth in it and then leaves room for 2 pickleball courts? What does that typically look like for you guys?
In most cases, it is the event organizer, the show organizers themselves. And that's part of that is we want to be that. We want to be the amenity at the conference that's for everybody. And, we want to limit the urgency of trying to convert everybody that's trying to play to something, right? Because we want it to be welcoming and inviting and a different experience than like, you're going to get sold after this. And so we've done a few where we're the booth, and here's a few challenges there. It's a lot of space if you bring in a full court. And so like as an exhibitor going to the show and saying, I want a pickleball court, that's tough. That's probably a pretty big expense. And then you've got to pay us to get all the stuff there. And usually we're running it. My team is teaching people how to play and playing with people all day and handling the administration and the waivers and all of that stuff, running tournaments if need be. Yep. And so it's challenging for an exhibitor to go get that. But as I mentioned, you can shrink that thing down and do a small court that does fit in your 20 by 10, like off to the side, where it's more like a little game, right? Like set something up on the other side, target practice, tchotchke activation type of thing that you can still leverage the excitement of pickleball in your trade show strategy. But for the most part, it is the event organizers themselves, and turning that into larger sponsorship packages or including it in larger sponsorship packages.
Right. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And as a lot of our listeners are potential, exhibitors as well, like think about how fun and exciting and how having something like that on the show floor as part of that event, it changes the flavor of things, right? And granted, some shows are serious. If you're in the medical profession and you're talking about saving lives and things, it's a different flavor than when you're at an aesthetics conference where people are there to find out how to, look good and so forth. And obviously, almost all exhibitors are there for, some sort of, gathering leads or increasing revenue through, marketing efforts and whatnot. But I got to think it changes the flavor of the folks who were there. It's something to talk about, something to do, something to then relate, back to, and then, like you're saying, tie it into sponsorship opportunities. Perfect.
Yep. That's the goal. We want to, we always want it to be free and no hassle, no stress. Come play if you want, don't play if you don't want, right? Like, and one of the things that we are trying to get better at, and that's the beautiful part of working with event organizers and event marketers already, is we can control a lot of what we can control with people getting on the court and playing and making that experience great. There's a halo effect, right? Like you may have 15, 16 people just waiting to play, right? And that could be 20-minute wait, just because we're doing everything we can. We want to give people enough time, but not like throw them out there and get them off. And so there's a halo effect, and learning more about and designing even more ways to convert the halo effect, if you will, is something that like we talk with our clients all the time about. We just did one in our most recent one in Denver. They brought out a drink cooler. And so like that was a new thing and it went really, really well. And so, we try to stay out of being the experiential marketing arm of the whole thing. And we can control pickleball, but there's clearly ways to make the existing impact that's already happening even bigger. And that's why we're so excited to be coming back for, year 2 with a lot of these events that worked with us last year. They're bringing us back. And a lot of them are in the health space. We love like the doctors and residents and researchers, like they love pickleball. And like it really goes well in that world.
Yeah, That's cool. And your background as a marketer, I think there's a reason you're here, right? This is not just by accident. Obviously, you ended up in this spot, but I'm guessing as you're mentioning, reboot, second year comes around, you're going back to those events. I'm imagining you're having conversations or you're being asked hey, you guys have been doing this for a year. You've done all these different industries. You've done all these different, shows and events and so forth. What works? What are some of the little, inside tricks that you've seen around creating more opportunities with either sponsorships or like you were just, citing the hey, this could be great. You're going to have potentially 20 people waiting. Why don't you build, the drink activation, next to that? And I'm sure you're going to be asked for, hey, best practices, right? What's working out there, and how do we move the needle based on what you've seen?
Yep. And we are getting asked those questions. And what we do know from our experience with pickleball in general is that, the key categories of hydration and fuel, like food, like snacks, and recovery, those kind of areas already work really, really well. Because when people get done playing, they want something to drink, they want a snack, or they're going to go find a snack, and maybe they want a towel, or maybe they want to stretch, right? And so those are kind of areas that we already know work, and figuring out how to get better at those at all the activations, and working with, learning whether that's us working with the event organizers to handle that part, or, figuring out how that can be included in what we bring, that's growth for us. And that's opportunity that we see. And we every single event, we are trying to, do something better. So
awesome. All right, let's go on to kind of the next set of questions, as it were. So you touched on it already, corporate wellness. Pretty much a very, very popular topic of conversation these days with regards to wellness and just kind of mental health, right? And granted, physical and mental are related. But as we kind of look at kind of those arenas, where do you see, pickleball fitting into that, and what have you learned as you've kind of gone out there, done these events, and you're gathering information as you're executing?
It's a great question, and there's just so many ways that I could take this answer. The part about the accessibility and natural social part that we mentioned that I mentioned in the last set of questions, that's a key driver here too, right? Because it doesn't matter whether it's folks that have never met before, people that live in different neighborhoods, or people that work together. The game promotes that same thing in the corporate setting, right? And so if you think about that, and then you consider the absenteeism data out there and the presenteeism data out there, and then you think, I wonder if that's because the wellness stuff is just stuff people don't want to do, right? And so what if you could infuse something people want to do that brings them joy into the wellness thing, right? It's like nobody wants to do teletherapy, right? Right? I mean, some people may, but that's not something that you wake up and it's like, oh my gosh, this brings me so much joy to check the boxes on my corporate wellness program. And we know from companies like Planet Fitness how few people actually go to the gym that have memberships anyway. And so I think that's the first critical part, is pickleball brings something to the table that people actually want to do. And the meteoric growth proves that, right? And the retention too of the sport. We're not losing players. It's just growing. And so that's the first part, is that type of thing, that phenomenon inside a company culture. It's hard to bet against something like that, something people want to do that they can do together, that builds relationships. I think we're a little early to have real quantitative data on pickleball and its effect and impact. But as the token pickleball guy here, I would bet on a bunch of different variations of how this gets involved. You mentioned physical and social or emotional health. Social health is a huge one. The Surgeon General came out and was talking about loneliness and how it's an epidemic. And after COVID, loneliness is just killing and crushing people. Pickleball is an antidote to that. Pickleball is a solution. It's naturally so you can't walk into a game and not talk to somebody, no matter where it is. You just have to. And I anecdotally, running a pickleball facility, I've had people tell me their lives have been changed. My business partner lost over 100 pounds playing pickleball. I've had mothers come and tell me they've got their sons back because their son was just playing video games and now they want to go play pickleball with their mom. And then I've also had people come up to me at conferences and trade shows and tell me this was like the most fun activation they've ever had. They've never played this. And now they're going to go back. They can't wait. They're already looking for places to play. And it's just like you can witness like the change in someone's persona. Like you can just, and it's amazing. And I can't really describe it. It's like, we call it pickleball magic. And that's what it does. So, you know, whether we're talking about putting pickleball courts on your campus, whether we're talking about getting your team memberships to a pickleball facility, or again, there's lots of ways bringing pickleball to all of your corporate events that you do. I think there's a lot of ways that companies are going to be able to capitalize on it from the wellness side. But the one thing is for sure that it should be on everyone's radar. If you want to see all those metrics that people talk about with corporate wellness programs, like actually hitting the mark.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And just, you know, those little heartwarming stories that you mentioned about, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's a game, and yet it's so much more, right? It just it has these massive impacts. So that's super cool to hear about. You know, it's we're not just talking about this would be fun to do at a trade show. It's like stuff that actually changes lives at the end of the day, which is really cool. You've touched on it already, but like talk to us a little bit about the growth metrics and so forth. You know, I was talking to one of my coworkers this morning about it. And neither of us really played very much. So we're kind of outsiders looking in, and we're like, obviously the buzz is everywhere about it. But we literally were like, how do they know, right? If they're calculating these growth metrics, how do they know? And you had a great stat. You're like, we know this is going to continue because of the age group of the people that are getting involved. But why don't you kind of paint a little broader picture on like, what are some of the stats? Where's this going? International expansion. I think you mentioned, you know, that primarily this is a North American thing right now, but boom, it's going to blow up, right?
Right. Yeah, it's already blown up. And, you know, I'm grateful to the people that are leading that international charge too. You know, there's a lot of folks that are in the pickleball business in America that are taking the risk, right? They're invested the money to get it overseas, and they're doing a lot of permanent stuff, you know, which is good for me. Any more permanent popularity brings more portable popularity as far as I'm concerned. And so there's I would say there's three kind of data points that round out the growth of pickleball. One is the 311% growth over the past 3 years. And I would say that number is a little bit subjective. There's a few different reporting methods, like there is with anything, that show kind of a range of people that have played. Because, you know, there's some stuff I was reading last year that was estimating about 50 million Americans played pickleball. A lot of the stuff recently is saying something like 35 to 50. And so there's a spectrum, but it is a lot of people. It's growing faster than baseball. Like it's more popular than baseball. I saw that stat recently too. And so the growth is the first thing. The second thing is what I mentioned earlier, how the market has shifted. And so it's not that the older folks aren't playing pickleball and it's not growing in the 55 and up bracket. It's just that it's growing so much faster in the 35 and under bracket. And they've contributed it was a chasm. Like the older group got it first, and then that started translating into, you know, playing, and you can see it a lot through playing with their kids and playing with their grandkids. And then it got passed through, and it was like a generational whoosh of demand. And now again, you're really starting to see massive investment in youth pickleball, and collegiate and that level. So that's the second one. So major growth. Major growth in all levels, including the young level. I don't want to paint it that it's like, oh, well, this young, you know, the young crowd, that's where we're at. It's like they may be like driving the future of it, but there's a ton of people in every market segment, if you will, that are playing pickleball. And then the third one is not necessarily about the players itself, but it's about the market. And so one of the really interesting things about the pickleball market is, I haven't seen an update on this, but the most recent data was that there needed to be about $900 million worth of investment in pickleball courts in the United States to meet the existing demand.
Okay.
By the time that we get that $900 million worth of courts down, there's probably going to be another $1 billion worth of demand if things keep growing. And so just looking at that part right there, those three things are what told us and what continue to tell us that pickleball is booming. And so that's, Pickleball 901 in our indoor facility is really a play on that side of the fence, right? Like they're just the supply and demand disparity for pickleball. Mostly, honestly, in the disparity is even worse in non-suburban, kind of affluent areas, right? It's either expensive urban areas where pickleball is popping up or expensive suburban areas that pickleball is popping up. And so figuring out how to bridge that gap and make something accessible and close to the populations that really, really need it. They need the physical health. They need the social health. They need the emotional health. All that stuff is a huge tenet of ours. But anyway, those three tenets are, for me, that's pickleball. It is so many people. It is all types of people. And it's not stopping because there's already a supply and demand problem. And so, we see that. And then we looked at the events world specifically, and there's very few conferences and trade shows that have a crowd small enough to do an event at a pickleball place. And so, those are kind of getting popular, especially in corporate, is like doing a corporate outing at your pickleball place. And, you get the bar and food and bev and all those things. It's very hard to do that with a 10,000, 15,000 person conference. And so, we again, from the other side of the fence, we looked at like, okay, if people are struggling to find pickleball where there's supposed to be pickleball, then they're really going to struggle to find it where there's not supposed to be pickleball. And we think everybody's going to be looking over there and we can take this lane. And so that's just kind of where we landed. But we are playing both sides of the pickleball fence right now. And we've got a lot of cool plans that will be rolling out pretty soon on the permanent side.
Cool. No, that's great. And I love how you kind of rolled it into like we're kind of in this new kind of era of work. We are this multi-generational workforce, right? We've got people from 22 years old to, fully engaged and active employees who are 72, 75 sometimes. So your boomers and your Xers and your millennials and your Gen Z and like everybody's in the workplace these days. People are living longer and they're healthier, due in part to things like this. But we're having to figure out how to work with each other. So what a great way to do that, right? There's not a lot of sports that a 70-year-old person can play against a 25-year-old person and compete on, call it compete on a, we golf with handicaps and stuff like that. But even that is difficult. So it's so cool that what you're into in this pickleball phenomenon is there for a lot of different reasons, but as you're saying, the accessibility of it and the fun factor, and it can be so many different things to so many different people.
The fun factor is important because that's the difference between pickleball and golf. It's a 75-year-old and a 25-year-old can play. One of those two is pissed off by the ninth hole, right? Like,
maybe both.
Like I play golf.
Probably, if they play anything like me, they're both pissed off.
It comes around on the 17th hole, right? The driver comes around on the 17th hole. I'm already mad. I'm ready to go home. It's been 5 hours. I'm hot. Pickleball it flips that, right? Like you can have that same spark and connection over 15 to 20 minutes and way less aggravation and way more joy. And that's been my experience. And I grew up playing golf my entire life. My dad's a huge golfer, and he still does the golf thing instead of the pickleball thing, and that's okay.
Awesome. Hey, we are at 43 minutes. I've got a couple of questions left, and then we're going to wrap things up, put a bow on it, and we'll be a little bit under an hour here. So, event strategy and practical implementation, right? So we got event planners out there. We've got trade show professionals. What you're talking about here sounds really great. Talk to us a little bit about some of the things that we need to think about from an execution standpoint. It's obviously it's space, it's logistics, it's outdoor, indoor, weather weighs in, stuff like that. So what are some of the things that maybe kind of a crash course in 101 for folks who are thinking about bringing a group like you in?
Yeah, sure. So let's start with the size. Generally speaking, the footprint of what we prefer to bring in is 30 feet by 60 feet, maybe a few feet shorter on each side, but that's typically, you're looking at 30 feet by 60 feet. That is the regulation size playing area and out of bounds space. The out of bounds space is important because somebody might be running and you don't want them going straight into the pipe and drape or through it into the graveyard back there, which is a lot of, we get, and that's because that'd be the second thing is we understand that there's extra space in some of these halls and we would love to fill it, improve how good of an experience it is, and then look at how do we get into the middle of the action, which is where a lot of our conversations go now is, they'll bring us in, they've got some space in the back and or on the side or something like that in the hall. So that's the type of space you're looking for. As far as how many courts, we had one pickleball court at Bitcoin 2025 with 35,000 people. It was full all the time. And the effect was the right effect, right? You had some people waiting, you had people playing, you had people watching, and it was an experience. And so we've done 2 courts. The most, unless we're doing like a company event, we're doing a company event in Las Vegas for a big sales kickoff for a big company in a few weeks. And we're doing 6 courts for them, but it's just like a one-day big tournament for their whole group. But typically in the trade show event world, we're doing 1 court, maybe 2 courts, right? And that's typically plenty. And space is the most important reason. But just knowing that our team is there on site to facilitate that gameplay and make sure that people aren't playing too long, but aren't playing too short, and that they're having a good experience. And so space is the big thing. I'll answer a few questions that I kind of get about the activation, because some of it's self-explanatory. We're A to Z. We're going to ship it. We're going to install it. We're going to run it. We're going to remove it. Then we're going to ship it back out and handle all of that. And you shouldn't have to touch anything or deal with anything outside of signing the contract and a kickoff call, right? And so at least that's our goal. Awesome. And so, but some questions that I get, one is, do you bring barriers to keep the balls from flying in? We have a few different ways that we can do that. We have some netting that we can do along the sides. Like I mentioned, we've got 20 foot long by 8 foot tall, big backstops that we can use. And then we also work sometimes alongside, Freeman or GES or somebody and get pipe and drape on one side if we need to. And so we will work with you guys on making sure that, you're not putting yourselves in a scenario where balls are flying around. And again, with 1 court, 4 people playing, the balls usually aren't going to be flying around. If they do, we also bring what I mentioned. We have a foam modified pickleball. If we're doing pickleball on carpet, and we got to put the tile court down on carpet, we're often going to use this foam ball. It's going to bounce way better. It's going to reduce injury risk by miles because aside from the little plastic ball that we're used to. And so we will work through ways to make sure, we've got a few different ways to make sure that you don't have to worry about that. We have a waiver for everything. Every single time we come to a show, they're scanning a QR code, they're signing a waiver. That list is given to event organizers 99% of the time. And that's to hand to sponsors, whatever. So we do have that type of built-in lead conversion, if you will. And we're exploring ways to get more leads converted from people who aren't playing. And so those are the main things. Again, indoor or outdoor will work, right? Outdoor, wind is a consideration, rain is a consideration, right? And so, which wind and rain and things change the way that's got to be set up. We've got to adhere it all together, and it can't just sit there and fly off. The ball will shoot around everywhere if you're playing in windy San Diego or something like that. And so, but indoor is preferred. The concrete in the trade show halls, exhibit halls is perfect. That's all we need as a subsurface. We can do ballroom carpet as well, like the thin ballroom carpet. Turf, grass, sand, dirt, all of those things are possible. We just have to build decking. And so we just got to we have to get, some turf protector underneath it. And then we have a plywood base that we can do. That's not actually plywood, but it feels like it. And so we just have to build a decking underneath to be able to do it on those surfaces, but we totally can. And so we don't typically, because most of these trade shows are not, they're not throwing us out on the beach, even though that'd be really cool. And so, but keeping it inside, keeping the actual setup minimal, allows my team to come in and be able to do it instead of, having to hire people to build your big booths. Like it's not a huge lift like that. And we just try to make it really easy. Our team can come in and get it installed like that. And then they'll run the show.
Nice. And you were mentioning, not only are they rolling in and they're setting it up, but they're working with people. They're kind of, and I think you mentioned this on the front end, is sometimes people need a nudge, right? So if the court is empty, your guys will go out there and start playing, and just, all of a sudden people are looking. They weren't just, now I'm not just looking at an empty court. I'm looking at people playing and like, oh, like this thing's open. Like I want to go play, right? So that becomes the draw.
It becomes a draw, right? And that is everybody on our team knows that's their job. The only time that you won't see that is maybe day 3 at the very end when we're dead tired from playing football.
Spent.
Yeah. But for the most part, we're out there, and thank God we all love it too, right? It's just so easy. Like you can get out there and hit for 30 minutes and then just forget that you were doing anything that important, And so,
right.
Our team is there to not only keep it active, but teach people. I would say 80% of the people, we're like teaching them and giving them a crash course to the game, like as we're playing with them for the first time. And we try to keep, we're not out there like, we need 4 people to play a game to 11, and then be like, no, that's against the rule. Like we just hit the ball, whack it around, laugh, smile, and look at all this branded stuff. That's the whole mission.
There you go. Awesome, man. Well, this has been really good. This is, one of the first episodes. We talk a lot of theory. We talk a lot of, marketing execution and stuff like this. This is one of the more practical options or episodes that we've had where we're not just saying like you could do a cool activation. We're saying this is a cool activation, and it's got a lot of really attractive benefits from the event standpoint. Excuse me, that go along with it. All right. Well, we got a thing here that we like to do. So you as our guest, I'm going to ask you 2 or 3 insights for marketers and event professionals, kind of a takeaway, something practical that people can kind of take with them and put in their pocket and roll out. What do you want to leave people with as far as ideas or suggestions?
So I'll say my number one insight for marketers, and this is what I've built a lot off of, is to focus on your customer instead of your competition. Listen to them, talk to them, ask them questions, design what you want, what they want, right? Especially if you're for us in the startup phase, like that's the only way we could figure out if this thing was viable, is we had to be like, what do you want, trade show organizer? With this, I can bring pickleball court. What else, right? And so, that has helped me. Every single marketing win I've had started with some type of customer prospect research. Like this is who I want to sell this to. I need to understand them. But that's we're learning every single day. What's hilarious about the events professionals is they all have different titles. So like there is like cold email campaign you can run, like you got to find 18 different variations. And so we're getting there. I've got in Notion, I've got like 17 different titles that I've experienced. Yep. But understanding, what they want out of the events is always step 1. Even when we get a sales call, it's like, what are you looking to get out of it? So that's number 1. Okay. My number 2 is, am I allowed to curse?
Yes, you are.
Okay. My number 2 insight for marketers is to make some fucking noise. Again, a lot of my successes have been about making noise. We threw a pickleball pop-up party at a brewery. I just wanted people to know this name and do it in the craziest way possible. And I wanted to keep, and we've kept making noise since then. We just did 100 hours of free pickleball at our place. We do these events all over the country, and we put pictures and videos online that are really cool with fun hip hop music behind it. Right. And so like, we're just making noise, making sure people know who you are and that you exist is so important. And then for event professionals, admittedly, I don't think I would call I guess I am an event professional now, but that's not my background is not in this type of event. But what I have learned, I'll say what I've learned about events is that fun is so important. And fun changes the dynamic of every single encounter that you have. Like every pickleball activation that I do, there's nobody that comes up upset. There's no negativity.
Right.
It doesn't matter. The only thing that some pickleball guy will come up and be like, that's not a real pickleball, and I'm like, this isn't a real pickleball facility. Like we're not, this is a trade show hall. And so give me a break, And so, but the fun, like the joy that it brings, like I will always be trying to forever infuse joy and fun into any event that we do, because I think from every perspective, right? Like ROI just down to brand recall, like all of those are impacted when fun's involved. If you can give somebody just an awesome experience, they're going to tell people about it and remember that it was you forever. And most likely they're going to go keep up with you, because I get followers on Instagram and LinkedIn all the time from these shows that just want to keep up with what we're doing. And that, that's going to pay off in the long run, because they're going to bring me to pickleball. They're going to bring me to something with pickleball, because of that just great relationship we built. So those would be my three.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And what a good way to put a bow on this and wrap it up. And I think as event professionals, like the idea of bringing joy and smiles, to our attendees and to our guests is huge. Right, because everybody's, like you said, like no one leaves with a sourpuss face going, "That sucked." Like, they just had a blast. I went to a trade show and had fun.
Right. And I've never had someone be upset. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Good stuff. So, all right, my friend. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap this up. Let everybody know that might want to reach out and touch base and connect with Jakob. What is the best way to reach you?
So to reach me, probably LinkedIn. You could hit me with a DM or a follow or whatever on LinkedIn. If you want to connect about pickleball or like your event, I would say go to www.pickleballpopups.com. There's a big green button that says book. Like that. That's going to go directly to my team. Somebody's going to call you immediately. I don't want to be a bottleneck if that's what you're interested in. But if you do just want to connect with me and say, hey, add me on LinkedIn, it's the best spot.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So I got to imagine, you're scaling your team, right? You guys are probably adding property, you're adding assets, you have the ability to send different teams in different directions all at the same time so that you can kind of be in a bunch of different places at once.
It's challenging. The biggest challenge is scaling people, and trying to catch and trying to balance the supply and demand too. It's like, you can't bring full-time people. It's got to be part-time for a little while. How do you know it? And so that's difficult. And a lot of you event professionals listening, you like to do stuff last minute. And so that every last minute deal means Jakob's got to go on the road. And so, which is fine, but we're trying to, we're actively trying to grow out of that. Thank God pickleball is so popular, and that there's a lot of 45 to 60-year-olds across the country that are really good fits for this job too. And so we're getting a lot of demand from people who want to help.
Awesome. I'm thinking about it like as my, as I'm flexed, as I invest in or look into flex-tirement in a few years, like this could be a freaking great way to spend some time. I could continue to get my event fixes, but expand upon something that's less frustrating than golf and good for me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. You're not the first person to say that to me. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we'll exchange information after the show. So awesome, my friend. Well, this has been great. I don't know, on my end, my audio and video is not necessarily lining up, but our producer Juana says everything's good, regardless of how we look. Although we're both extremely handsome, I got to say that I think the content here is great, and check us out, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform, and you'll learn a lot and really kind of a lot of great nuggets there for some great ideas. So. Jakob, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Thank you to everybody. Happy eventing. Happy rest of the week out there. And thanks to everybody from our house to yours. Thanks for tuning into the Toolbox. So cheers, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.